She dropped a $20 bill on the table like she was paying for garbage disposal. "You're sweet, Daniel, but I'm not looking for a ready-made family. You're just not my type." Daniel Park sat frozen watching another woman walk out of his life because he had a daughter. 14 failed dates in 2 years. Same ending every time. He reached for his coat. Time to go home. Time to lie to his 8-year-old again. That's when a stranger's voice cut through the noise. "Excuse me, would you consider being my husband?" Daniel turned. The woman at the next table wasn't smiling. She was dead serious. What happened next would change everything, but not in the way either of them expected. "Comment the city you're watching from, so I can see how far this story has traveled." Daniel's hand stopped halfway to his wallet. He turned slowly, certain he'd misheard. The restaurant buzzed with Christmas Eve chatter couples leaning close over candlelit tables, laughter bouncing off exposed brick walls. Maybe someone's joke had carried wrong. But the woman at the adjacent table was staring directly at him. Dark hair pulled back tight. A charcoal suit that probably cost more than his monthly rent. Eyes that assessed him like he was a balance sheet she was auditing for fraud. "I'm sorry," Daniel said. "What did you say?" "I asked if you would consider being my husband." Her voice carried no humor. No hint that this might be a prank. "I'm completely serious." Daniel glanced around. Hidden cameras, friends playing a cruel joke, some reality TV setup designed to humiliate lonely single fathers on Christmas Eve. Nothing. Just this stranger watching him like he was the most interesting problem she'd encountered all week. "You're insane," he said flatly. "Probably." The corner of her mouth twitched. Not quite a smile. "But I'm also very alone. And so are you." The words hit harder than they should have. 8 years. 8 years since Sarah's funeral. 8 years of frozen dinners and parent-teacher conferences he attended alone. 8 years of being both mother and father to Lily, falling short at both. This woman couldn't know any of that. But something in her eyes suggested she understood loneliness in her own way. "Sit down," she continued, her voice losing its edge. "Let me buy you dinner. 5 minutes of your time. If you still think I'm crazy after that, you can leave." Every instinct screamed at Daniel to walk away. This was how horror movies started. Stranger makes bizarre proposal. Protagonist ignores red flags. Ends up dismembered in a basement. But there was something in her expression that stopped him. Not pity, he'd learned to spot that from 50 feet away. Something more like recognition. Like seeing your own reflection in a stranger's eyes. He sat back down. She signaled the waiter without breaking eye contact, ordered wine for both of them, without asking his preference. When the server retreated, she folded her hands on the table with the precision of someone used to boardroom negotiations. "My name is Victoria Sterling. I'm CEO of CyberShield Technologies, cybersecurity software for financial institutions. Started the company 13 years ago in my apartment. Now we have 240 employees and 52 million in annual revenue." She recited the facts like items on a grocery list. "I'm 38. I grew up here in Boston, Back Bay. My parents are difficult. I have no siblings. I like Thai food and documentaries about history. I hate small talk and people who waste my time." Despite everything, Daniel felt his lips twitch toward a smile. "Daniel Park," he said, 44. "Financial analyst at Morrison & Associates. I catch people who steal from their own companies. I have a daughter, Lily, who's 8. She loves piano and hates broccoli. My wife died 6 years ago from leukemia. I've been alone ever since." Victoria nodded slowly, as if he'd confirmed something she'd already suspected. "I know." Daniel's eyebrows rose. "You know. I looked you up while you were waiting for your date. Morrison & Associates has a solid reputation. You personally led the investigation that uncovered the embezzlement scheme at Hartfield Manufacturing 3 years ago, saved them $14 million. You researched me. I make 7-figure decisions every day." Her expression didn't waver. You think I'd approach a stranger without doing basic due diligence? She pulled a manila envelope from the leather bag at her feet, slid it across the table. Prenuptial agreement. I had my lawyer draft a template 8 months ago when I first considered this approach. Never found anyone worth using it on until tonight. Daniel opened the envelope with hands that didn't quite feel like his own. Inside 22 pages of legal language, but the terms were straightforward. Separate finances. No claim to her company or assets. Provisions for Lily's education and health care. Dissolution terms if either party wanted out after 2 years. It was the most romantic yet unromantic thing he'd ever seen. You've been planning this. Not a question. I'm a CEO. I plan everything. Victoria's expression softened fractionally. But I've been alone for 5 years, Daniel. Since my ex-fiancé ended things. I'm tired of being alone. Tired of my parents setting me up with men who see dollar signs instead of a person. Tired of feeling like I'm incomplete because my body doesn't work the way society expects. What do you mean? Victoria picked up her wine glass but didn't drink, just held it like a prop. I can't have children. The words came out flat, stripped of emotion. Medical condition. Irreversible. When I told my fiancé Marcus, he called off the wedding. Said he wanted a real family. Anger flared hot in Daniel's chest. That's horrible. It is, but it's also reality. She set down the glass with careful precision. You have a daughter who needs a mother figure. I want to be a mother, but physically cannot. You keep getting rejected for having a child. I keep getting rejected for not being able to produce one. She leaned forward slightly. What if we helped each other, not a fairy tale? A partnership. A practical arrangement that could become something real. Daniel stared at her. She was serious. Completely, utterly serious. Why me? He asked. Of all the single fathers in Boston, why approach a stranger in a restaurant on Christmas Eve? I heard you talking before your date arrived. Daniel frowned, trying to remember. You told the bartender your daughter drew you a picture of a Christmas tree this morning, that she's learning Jingle Bells on the piano, and she practices so hard her fingers hurt, but she won't stop because she wants to play it for you on Christmas Day. Daniel blinked. He had said that. To the bartender who'd made sympathetic noises while pouring his beer. The love in your voice when you talked about her. Victoria's mask slipped, revealing something raw underneath. That's what family sounds like. That's what I want. The waiter returned with their wine. Victoria thanked him without looking away from Daniel. You're asking me to marry you because I love my daughter. I'm asking you to consider building something real, with someone who will love her too. Victoria's voice held no desperation, just certainty. Not because she's a package deal I have to accept, because she's exactly what I've been looking for. You don't even know her. Then let me meet her. Let me prove I'm serious. Daniel's phone buzzed. A text from his sister Rachel. How's the date going? He stared at the message, then at Victoria, then at the prenuptial agreement sitting between them like a contract with fate. This is insane, he said, but the words lacked conviction. Maybe, but staying alone because you're afraid of taking a risk, is that really better? Victoria stood, gathering her coat. Think about it, but don't take too long. Loneliness has a way of making us settle for less than we deserve. She left cash on the table, more than enough to cover both meals. Wait. Daniel heard himself speak before his brain caught up. How do I contact you? Victoria paused, pulled a business card from her pocket, wrote something on the back. Personal cell, not my assistant, not my office. Me. She handed it to him. Call when you're ready, Daniel. I'll be waiting. Then she walked out into the Christmas lights and winter darkness, leaving Daniel alone with the most impossible decision of his life. The drive home felt longer than usual. Boston's streets glittered with holiday decorations, families walking together, couples holding hands, children pressing faces against toy store windows. Daniel saw none of it. His mind kept circling back to Victoria's words. What if we helped each other? His rental house in Somerville looked shabbier than he remembered. One-story ranch gray siding that needed repainting a yard he kept neat, but couldn't make beautiful. Inside, his mother sat on the couch knitting needles clicking softly. You're early. Margaret Park looked up, reading his expression instantly. Another bad one. Something like that. Lily's asleep. She tried to wait up but crashed around 9. Made you a card. Margaret nodded toward the kitchen table. That girl has your stubbornness. Daniel picked up the card. Construction paper glitter that got everywhere. Careful letters in purple crayon. Merry Christmas, Daddy. You're the best. The your should have been your. But Daniel's throat closed up anyway. Daniel. His mother's voice was gentle. What happened tonight? He sat down heavily across from her. The whole story poured out. The rejection, Victoria, the proposal, the prenuptial agreement. By the end, Margaret had set down her knitting and was staring at him with an expression he couldn't read. She asked you to marry her. Yes. After watching your date reject you. Yes. And you're actually considering it. Daniel ran his hands through his hair. I don't know. It sounds crazy when I say it out loud. It sounds crazy because it is crazy. Margaret leaned forward. But your father proposed to me after knowing me for 3 weeks. Everyone said we were insane. 42 years later, I'm glad we didn't listen. That's different. You loved each other. Did we? At 3 weeks. Margaret shook her head. We barely knew each other. We just felt something worth fighting for. Love came later through the fighting itself. Daniel thought about Sarah. How they'd met in high school, dated through college, married at 23. Everyone said they were too young. They'd proved everyone wrong until the universe decided to take her anyway. Sarah made me promise something before she died. I know. Margaret's eyes glistened. She told me too. Made me swear I'd remind you if you forgot. Remind me of what? That she didn't want you to spend your life alone. That Lily deserves a mother. That loving someone new doesn't mean you loved her any less. The words hit like a physical blow. Daniel had told himself he was honoring Sarah's memory by not moving on. By dedicating every moment to Lily. By closing off his heart to anyone else. But that wasn't what Sarah had wanted. She'd been explicit about it. Holding his hand in the hospital barely strong enough to speak. Promise me you'll be happy. Promise me you won't let me dying make you afraid to live. He'd promised. And then he'd broken that promise every single day for 6 years. What do I tell Lily? His voice cracked. If I actually do this, tell her the truth. That you met someone who might become very important. That you want her to meet this person. That no matter what happens, she's your whole world. Margaret stood, gathered her coat. It's Christmas Eve, Daniel. Maybe that's not a coincidence. Maybe the universe is giving you a gift you didn't know how to ask for. She kissed his forehead the way she had when he was small. Get some sleep. Lily will be up at dawn wanting to open presents. And you have some thinking to do. After his mother left, Daniel sat alone in the quiet house. The Christmas tree Lily had insisted on decorating blinked with colored lights. Her presence waited underneath nothing expensive but chosen with care. A new sketchbook because she'd been drawing constantly. Sheet music for piano pieces she wanted to learn. A stuffed elephant because she'd mentioned once that elephants never forget, and she wanted to never forget her mom. Daniel pulled out Victoria's business card, premium stock, embossed lettering. On the back, her handwriting was surprisingly messy. A phone number and 2 words, take the risk. He didn't call that night. But he didn't throw away the card either. Christmas morning arrived with an 8-year-old earthquake. Daddy, Daddy, wake up, Santa came. Daniel opened his eyes to find Lily bouncing on his bed, dark hair wild, wearing the pajamas with penguins that were getting too small, but she refused to give up. What time is it? Present time. He let himself be dragged to the living room where Lily attacked the wrapped packages with the focus of a surgeon and the energy of a hurricane. The sketchbook made her gasp. The sheet music made her immediately sit at the keyboard and attempt to play. The elephant made her go very quiet. "Daddy." "Yeah, sweetheart. This is so I never forget Mommy, right?" Daniel's heart cracked a little. "That's right, elephants never forget." "I won't forget." Lily hugged the elephant tight. "I promise I won't forget." They made breakfast together. Chocolate chip pancakes, the recipe Sarah had perfected, the one Daniel had burned dozens of times before getting right. Lily sat at the kitchen table, elephant beside her plate, chattering about what her friends might have gotten for Christmas. "Daddy." "Yeah. Emma got a new mommy last year." Daniel's spatula stopped mid-flip. "Her dad got married. Now she has a mom and a stepmom. She says her stepmom makes really good cookies." "That's nice for Emma." "Do you think I could ever get a new mommy?" The question hung in the air like smoke from the slightly burned pancake. Daniel turned around. Lily was looking at him with Sarah's eyes dark direct, seeing more than an 8-year-old should. "Would you want that?" Lily considered the question seriously, the way she considered everything seriously since she'd learned what death meant. "I don't want to forget my real mommy, but Emma says her stepmom isn't replacing her real mom. She's just extra, like bonus features on a DVD." Daniel almost laughed at the analogy. Almost. "How would you feel if Daddy started spending time with someone, a lady who might become very important?" "Is this about your date last night?" Lily's eyes narrowed with 8-year-old suspicion. "Grandma said it didn't go well." "Grandma talks too much." Daniel slid a pancake onto her plate. "The date didn't go well, but I met someone else, someone different." "Different? How did you explain Victoria Sterling to an 8-year-old? She's direct. She says what she means. She doesn't play games." Daniel sat across from his daughter. "And she wants to meet you." Lily processed this fork, hovering over her pancake. "Why?" "Because she thinks you're the most important thing in my life, and she's right." "Do you like her?" "I don't know yet, but I'd like to find out." Lily cut her pancake with careful precision, the way she did everything that mattered. "Okay. Okay. You can invite her to meet me." Lily looked up. "But she has to pass the test." "What test?" "The Lily test." She said it like it was obvious. "I'll know if she's good or not. Kids always know." Daniel felt something shift in his chest. His 8-year-old was giving him permission to try again, to take a risk, to maybe possibly find something he'd convinced himself he'd never have. "Deal," he said. "But eat your pancakes first. Piano practice in an hour." Lily groaned but obeyed. As she ate, Daniel pulled out his phone, found Victoria's number, and typed a message before he could talk himself out of it. "Saturday, there's a park near my house, Lexington Common, 10 a.m. She wants to meet you." The response came within 30 seconds. "I'll be there. Thank you for taking the risk, Daniel." He stared at the message, heart pounding. This was either the best decision of his life or the worst. In 5 days, he'd find out which. The week between Christmas and Saturday stretched like taffy. Daniel went through the motions. Work resumed on the 26th. Morrison and Associates didn't believe in extended holidays. He caught up on cases, reviewed financial statements, flagged irregularities in a shipping company's quarterly reports. The routine felt hollow in a way it hadn't before. His colleagues noticed something was off. "You're distracted," Ted Morrison said during their Thursday meeting. "Everything okay at home?" "Fine. Just processing some personal stuff." "Lily doing all right?" "She's great, learning new piano pieces, drawing constantly." Ted nodded, but his eyes held concern. "If you need time, take it. You've earned it." Daniel hadn't taken personal time in 3 years. The idea felt foreign, like a language he'd forgotten how to speak. At night after Lily was asleep, he found himself researching Victoria Sterling. Not stalking professional curiosity. The same skills he used to investigate corporate fraud turned toward understanding a woman who'd proposed marriage within 5 minutes of meeting him. The internet told him plenty. Featured in Forbes 40 Under 40 3 years ago. Cover story in Wired about women in cybersecurity. TEDx talk titled, Building Trust in a Trustless World, that had 2 million views. Board member of 2 nonprofits focused on STEM education for girls. No social media presence. No tabloid appearances. No leaked relationships or scandals. She'd built an empire while keeping her private life completely private. The only personal detail he found was a brief mention in a Boston Globe article. Sterling, who is unmarried with no children, credits her late mother's work ethic as her primary inspiration. Late mother. Another loss they had in common. Daniel also researched the prenuptial agreement she'd given him, had a lawyer friend review it off the record favor, owed from an embezzlement case Daniel had helped with years ago. It's airtight, the friend said. But surprisingly fair. She's protecting her company obviously. But she's also providing substantial provisions for your daughter. Education Healthcare Trust Fund. If you divorce, Lily still benefits. What's the catch? There isn't one. Either she has the best lawyers in Boston or she actually means what she's offering. A pause. Daniel, who is this woman? Someone I just met. And she's offering this much for your kid without even meeting her. That's what she claims. His friend whistled low. Either she's crazy or she's exactly what she says she is. Good luck figuring out which. Saturday arrived with the weight of inevitability. Daniel dressed in his best casual clothes jeans, a button-down shirt Sarah had bought him years ago that still fit. He helped Lily into her favorite yellow coat, brushed her hair until it shone, made sure she had her sketchbook in case she got bored. Remember, Lily said as they walked to the car. I'm giving her the Lily test. I remember. If she fails, we leave immediately. Deal. And you have to buy me ice cream after either way. Daniel smiled despite his nerves. Also deal. The drive to Lexington Common took 15 minutes. Daniel's hands gripped the steering wheel too tight the entire way. Lily hummed Jingle Bells in the back seat, seemingly unconcerned about the potentially life-changing meeting they were driving toward. Victoria was already there when they arrived, but she'd transformed. Gone was the severe suit and corporate armor. Instead, jeans that looked expensive but comfortable, a cream-colored sweater, winter boots. Her hair was down, falling past her shoulders in waves Daniel hadn't noticed before. She looked almost nervous. Good. At least he wasn't the only one terrified. Victoria, Daniel said as they approached. This is Lily. Lily, this is Victoria. Lily studied Victoria with the brutal honesty of children. 5 seconds of silence that felt like 5 hours. Hi, Lily finally said. You're pretty. Victoria's smile reached her eyes in a way it hadn't at the restaurant. Thank you. So are you. I love your coat. It's yellow, like sunshine. That's a good way to describe it. Lily tilted her head. Daddy says you want to be his friend. I do. Victoria crouched down to Lily's level, something Daniel noticed immediately. Not talking down to her, meeting her where she was. But more than that, I want to be your friend too. Why? Because your dad talks about you like you're the most amazing person he knows. I figured anyone that special is worth meeting. Lily considered this. I'm giving you a test, she announced. It's called the Lily test. If you pass, you can keep seeing Daddy. If you fail, you have to go away and never come back. Daniel opened his mouth to apologize for his daughter's directness, but Victoria held up a hand. I accept your terms. What's the test? First question. Lily crossed her arms. Do you like elephants? Victoria blinked. Elephants. It's important. Yes, actually. Elephants are one of my favorite animals. They're intelligent, they have strong family bonds, and they never forget the ones they love. Lily's eyes widened slightly. Right answer. Second question. Can you draw? Honestly, I'm terrible at it. Really? Really. My stick figures look like they've been in accidents. For the first time, Lily cracked a smile. That's okay. I can teach you. I'm a really good teacher. I'd like that very much. Third question. Lily's expression turned serious. My mommy died when I was little. Daddy says she's in heaven. Do you want to make me forget her? The air went still. Victoria's expression shifted. Something raw crossed her face, quickly controlled, but not quickly enough. My mommy died when I was 11, she said quietly. A car accident. For a long time I was afraid people would make me forget her too. Lily's arms uncrossed slightly. But here's what I learned. Victoria's voice was gentle but firm. The people we love never really leave us. They stay in our hearts. They're in the way we laugh, the things we love, the people we become. She looked directly at Lily. I would never try to make you forget your mommy. I would never try to replace her. What I would like, if you'll let me, is to add something new to your life. Not instead of what you had. Alongside it. Silence. Daniel held his breath. Daniel held his. Lily stared at Victoria for a long moment. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. She handed it to Victoria. What's this? Victoria asked. Open it. Victoria unfolded the paper carefully. Inside was a drawing, 3 figures holding hands under a Christmas tree. One tall with dark hair, one medium with dark hair, and one small with a yellow coat. That's the 3 of us, Lily explained. I drew it this morning, before I knew if you'd pass. Victoria's eyes glistened. You drew us before you met me? Daddy showed me your picture, the one from his phone. Daniel stared at his daughter. He'd shown Lily a photo from the business card, Victoria's professional headshot. He hadn't realized Lily had been thinking about it all week. You passed, Lily said simply. Welcome to our family. Then she grabbed Victoria's hand and pulled her toward the playground. Come on, I want to show you the swings. Victoria let herself be led. Glancing back at Daniel with an expression that might have been shock or might have been joy. Daniel followed, watching his daughter and this stranger, who somehow didn't feel like a stranger anymore. Whatever this was, transaction, partnership, the beginning of something real, it had officially begun. And nothing would ever be the same. The weeks that followed blurred together in the best possible way. That first Saturday at the park lasted 3 hours. Lily showed Victoria the swings, the slides, the secret spot behind the oak tree where she'd buried a time capsule last summer. Victoria listened to everything with focused attention, asking questions that proved she was actually processing what Lily said, rather than just being polite. She didn't check her phone once. When Lily got hungry, they walked to a diner nearby. Victoria ordered coffee she didn't drink. Watching Lily demolish a grilled cheese sandwich while explaining the complex social dynamics of her 3rd grade class. Emma thinks she's the best at art because her mom bought her fancy colored pencils, Lily said through a mouthful of bread. But expensive pencils don't make you good. Practice makes you good. That's very wise, Victoria said. I know. Daddy tells me that all the time. Daniel sat beside them, feeling like a spectator at his own life. This wasn't how he'd imagined things going. He'd expected awkwardness, forced conversation, the painful process of 2 strangers trying to find common ground. Instead, Lily and Victoria talked like they'd known each other for years. Can Victoria come to my piano recital? Lily asked, suddenly turning to Daniel. It's in 2 weeks. I'm playing Jingle Bells and Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Daniel looked at Victoria. That's up to her. I'd love to come. Victoria's voice held something Daniel couldn't quite identify. If that's okay with you. It's very okay, Lily grinned. You can sit next to Daddy. He always cries at my recitals. I do not cry. You cried at the last one. I had something in my eye. Both eyes. For the whole song. Victoria laughed a real laugh, unguarded and warm. Daniel felt something shift in his chest. Something that had been frozen for 6 years, starting to thaw. After lunch, they walked back to the park. Lily ran ahead to claim the swings, while Daniel and Victoria followed at a slower pace. Thank you, Victoria said quietly. For what? For giving me a chance. For letting me meet her. She watched Lily pump her legs, swinging higher and higher. I've spent years being told I can't have what I want, that I'm incomplete, that no man would want someone who can't give him children. Those people were idiots. Maybe, but after hearing it enough times, you start to believe it. Daniel understood that more than she knew. Every woman who'd walked away because of Lily. Every pitying look. Every well-meaning friend who suggested he'd have better luck dating if he didn't mention his daughter right away. Lily's not a liability, he said. She's the best thing I've ever done. I can see that. Victoria's voice was soft. The way you look at her. The way she looks at you. That's what I want, Daniel. Not to replace what you had with Sarah. Just to be part of what you're building. They walked in comfortable silence for a moment. Same time next Saturday? Victoria asked. Same time next Saturday. It became their rhythm. The second week they went to the New England Aquarium. Lily pressed her face against the glass of the giant ocean tank, naming every fish that swam past, while Victoria stood beside her, asking about the difference between sharks and dolphins, between octopuses and squids. Octopuses have 8 arms, Lily explained with the patience of a professor addressing a slow student. Squids have 10, and octopuses are way smarter. They can open jars and solve puzzles. Can they play piano? Lily giggled. No, silly, they don't have fingers. But they have 8 arms. That seems like it would be helpful. Arms aren't the same as fingers. You need fingers to play piano. Lily held up her hands, wiggling her digits. See, 10 fingers. That's why I can play. What if you only had 8 fingers? Then I'd have to play easier songs. Daniel watched them from a few feet away, pretending to read a placard about sea turtles. This was the Victoria test he hadn't told her about. Not whether she could impress him, anyone with her money and credentials could do that. Whether she could be present. Whether she could give Lily the kind of attention that couldn't be bought. So far, she was passing with flying colors. The third week, they attempted to bake cookies at Daniel's apartment. Victoria stood in his small kitchen, looking completely lost. Designer jeans, cashmere sweater, no idea how to measure flour. You've really never baked anything? Daniel asked, handing her a measuring cup. We had staff growing up. Cook, housekeeper, gardener. I didn't learn any domestic skills until I moved out for college, and even then I mostly survived on takeout. What did you eat? Thai food, Chinese food, pizza when I was feeling adventurous. She examined the measuring cup like it was an alien artifact. How much flour goes in this? 1 cup. How do I know when it's 1 cup? Daniel stared at her. You run a $50 million company and you don't know how measuring cups work. Running a company requires strategic thinking and financial acumen. Neither of those involves flour. Lily appeared at Victoria's elbow. I'll show you. It's easy. For the next hour, Daniel watched his daughter teach one of Boston's most successful CEOs the basics of baking. Lily demonstrated how to crack eggs without getting shells in the batter, how to mix until just combined meant, how to space cookies on a baking sheet so they didn't turn into one giant blob. Victoria followed every instruction with the seriousness of someone learning brain surgery. Now we wait, Lily announced, setting the timer. 12 minutes, then we check. What do we do for 12 minutes? We clean up. That's the worst part. They cleaned up together, Victoria washing dishes, Lily drying, Daniel putting ingredients away. domestic routine that felt natural in a way it hadn't since Sarah. The timer went off. Lily opened the oven door. Oh no! The cookies were charred on the edges and raw in the middle, somehow simultaneously burned and underdone. I don't understand, Victoria said, staring at the disaster. We followed the recipe exactly. You forgot to set the temperature, Daniel observed. The oven was still on the preheat setting. What's the difference? About 100 degrees. Victoria's face fell. Daniel braced himself for frustration, for blame for the kind of reaction he'd seen from women who expected everything to go perfectly. Instead, Victoria started laughing. Not polite laughter. Deep, genuine laughter that shook her shoulders and made tears form in the corners of her eyes. They're terrible, she gasped. They're so terrible. Lily joined in, giggling until she couldn't breathe. You made poison cookies. I really did. I poisoned us all. We should call the hospital. We should call the fire department. Daniel watched them collapse against each other, laughing at the ruined cookies, and felt something crack open in his chest. This was what he'd been afraid to hope for. This was what Lily had been missing. Pizza, he suggested, when the laughter finally died down. God, yes, Victoria said. Anything but cookies. They ordered pizza and ate it on the living room floor because the kitchen table was still covered in flour. Lily showed Victoria her sketchbook pages and pages of drawings she'd been working on since Christmas. This one is Daddy at work. Lily pointed to a figure surrounded by numbers. He catches bad guys who steal money. That's very accurate, Victoria said. He looks serious. He is serious. His work face is like this. Lily scrunched her features into an exaggerated frown. All grumpy and focused. I do not look like that. You kind of do, Victoria said. I've seen you analyze a menu like it contained evidence of fraud. Daniel opened his mouth to protest, then closed it. She wasn't wrong. This one is my mom. Lily turned the page to reveal a figure with long dark hair and a big smile. I drew her from pictures because I don't remember what she looks like. Daddy says that's okay. She's in here. Lily touched her chest. Even if I can't see her. Victoria's expression shifted. Something raw crossed her face. My mom died when I was 11, she said quietly. Car accident. I was old enough to remember her, but sometimes I forget little things. The sound of her voice, the way she laughed. It scared me for a long time, forgetting pieces of her. Lily listened with 8-year-old solemnity. What helped? Daniel asked. My stepmother, Catherine. She married my dad 3 years after my mom died. Victoria's voice was careful, choosing words like someone walking through a minefield. I hated her at first. Thought she was trying to replace my mom. Did she? No, she just added something new, like you're drawing Lily. Your mom is in your heart. Anyone new doesn't erase that. They just take a different spot. Lily considered this for a long moment. Is that what you want to do? Take a different spot. Victoria looked at Daniel, then back at Lily. If you'll let me. Someday. No rush, no pressure, just the possibility. Lily nodded slowly, then turned back to her sketchbook. I'm going to draw you, she announced. For the next page. You're part of the story now. Daniel's throat closed. His 8-year-old had just said more than he'd been able to articulate. Victoria was part of the story now. Whatever happened next, she'd already left a mark. The 4th week they went ice skating at Boston Common. Victoria couldn't skate, at all. I grew up in Back Bay, she said, clutching the wall like it was the only thing keeping her alive. Private schools, piano lessons, tennis in the summer. Nobody taught me to balance on frozen water in knife shoes. They're called skates, Lily said, gliding past with the confidence of someone who'd been skating since she was 4. They're called torture devices. Daniel offered his hand. Come on, I won't let you fall. You can't promise that. I can promise I'll catch you if you do. Victoria stared at his outstretched hand. Something flickered in her eyes, fear maybe, or trust. The moment stretched. Then she let go of the wall and took his hand. They made it approximately 3 feet before Victoria's legs went in different directions. Daniel caught her arms wrapped around her waist, holding her upright while she grabbed fistfuls of his jacket. "I told you I'd catch you. You also said you wouldn't let me fall. I fell. You started to fall. There's a difference." Victoria laughed against his shoulder breath, warm through the cold air. She didn't pull away immediately. Neither did he. "Get a room," Lily shouted from across the rink. Daniel stepped back, face heating, despite the December chill. Victoria's cheeks were pink too, but she was smiling. "Let's try again," she said. "Maybe with more wall support this time." They spent an hour on the ice. Lily skated circles around them, while Daniel and Victoria shuffled along the edge. Victoria falling approximately every 4 minutes, and Daniel catching her approximately every 4 minutes. By the end, Victoria had managed 3 consecutive strides without falling. "I did it!" She threw her arms up in triumph. "You did it!" Lily cheered like Victoria had won the Olympics. "That was amazing. You only almost died like 20 times. Improvement is improvement. They got hot chocolate at the stand nearby. Victoria's cheeks were flushed from cold and exertion. Her hair had come loose from its ponytail, falling around her face in waves. She looked younger, happier, real. "Thank you," she said quietly while Lily was distracted by the marshmallows in her cup. "For what?" "For this. For all of it." Victoria looked at him directly. "I haven't been this happy in years, maybe ever." Daniel wanted to say something meaningful, something that matched the weight of what she'd just admitted. Instead he said, "You're getting better at skating." Victoria laughed. "I'm really not." "Okay, you're terrible, but enthusiastic." "I'll take enthusiastic." Lily tugged at Daniel's sleeve. "Can we come back next week?" Ask Victoria. Lily turned to Victoria with weaponized puppy eyes. "Please, I can teach you how to spin." "Spinning seems dangerous." "Only a little dangerous." Victoria pretended to consider it seriously. "How little?" "Like, medium dangerous, but fun dangerous." "Well, if it's fun dangerous." Victoria smiled. "Same time next week." Lily cheered. Daniel watched them together. His daughter and this woman who'd walked into his life with an impossible proposal and let himself believe this might actually work. The 5th week, the pattern broke. Daniel's phone rang on a Tuesday morning. Lily's school. His stomach dropped before he even answered. "Mr. Park. This is the nurse's office at Emerson Elementary. Lily has a fever of 102. She's asking for you." He was out of his desk before the nurse finished talking. Lily looked small in the cot when he arrived, pale and miserable, clutching her stomach. "Daddy?" Her voice was thin. "I don't feel good." "I know, sweetheart. Let's get you home." He carried her to the car, drove home with one hand on the wheel and one hand holding hers, tucked her into bed with extra blankets and the stuffed elephant she slept with every night. The fever climbed. 102 became 103. Lily threw up twice. Daniel called his mother, who was visiting his aunt in Connecticut and couldn't get back until tomorrow. He called the pediatrician, who said it was probably a stomach virus and to keep her hydrated. He texted Victoria without really thinking about it. "Lily's sick. Can't make Saturday. Sorry." Her response came in 3 minutes. "I can come help." "You don't have to do that." "I know. I want to. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Daniel stared at the phone. This wasn't part of their arrangement. This wasn't practical partnership territory. This was the messy, unglamorous part of parenting that scared people away. He should tell her not to come. Instead, he texted his address. Victoria arrived carrying a bag from a restaurant neither of them had ever mentioned. Chicken soup, crackers, ginger ale, medicine that came in grape flavor because apparently she'd researched what kids preferred. How did you know about the grape medicine? Internet. She set the bag on his kitchen counter. Where is she? Bedroom. She's sleeping. Victoria walked toward the hall, then stopped. May I? Daniel nodded. He followed her to Lily's doorway, watched her kneel beside the bed, Lily's stirred eyes opening halfway. Victoria. Hi, sweetie. I heard you're not feeling great. My tummy hurts. I know. I brought you some things that might help. But first, you need to rest. Will you stay? Victoria looked at Daniel. He nodded again. I'll stay as long as you want me to. Lily's eyes closed. Victoria stayed kneeling beside the bed, hand resting gently on Lily's forehead. She's warm, Victoria murmured, but not dangerous warm. This should break by tomorrow. You know about fevers? I know about everything. I'm a CEO. A ghost of a smile. Also, I had a lot of fevers as a kid. My stepmother had a whole system. Daniel leaned against the doorframe, exhausted and grateful in equal measure. Go work, Victoria said quietly. I've got her. You have a company to run. I have a laptop and Wi-Fi. She pulled her computer from her bag. I can run my company from anywhere. You can't run Morrison and Associates from Lily's bedroom. She had a point. Are you sure? Daniel. Victoria looked up at him. Go. I've got this. I promise. He worked from the kitchen table, answering emails he couldn't focus on, reviewing documents that blurred before his eyes. Every few minutes he got up to check on Lily. Every time Victoria was exactly where he'd left her, typing one-handed on her laptop, while the other hand held Lily's. At some point, Lily's fever broke. Daniel checked because Victoria texted him from the bedroom. 99.1. She's sleeping peacefully. You can stop checking every 5 minutes. He hadn't realized she'd noticed. That evening, after Lily had kept down soup and crackers and declared herself mostly better, Daniel found Victoria in his kitchen washing dishes she hadn't dirtied. You don't have to do that. I know. She didn't stop washing. I wanted to. Victoria. She turned off the water, turned to face him. In his small, outdated kitchen, wearing jeans and a sweater that had probably cost more than his refrigerator, she looked absolutely at home. I need to tell you something, she said. Daniel's stomach tightened. Okay. This started as a business arrangement, a practical solution to problems we both had. Victoria dried her hands on a dish towel. I told myself I could keep it transactional. Partnership, not emotion. Two lonely people helping each other out. And now I watch you with Lily and I can't breathe. Now I spend every week counting days until Saturday. Now I check my phone constantly, hoping you've texted something, anything, even just to say hello. She stepped closer. I'm falling in love with you, Daniel. Both of you. And that terrifies me because love wasn't part of the plan. Daniel's heart pounded against his ribs. He'd spent 6 years convincing himself he was done with love, that Sarah had been his one shot, that opening himself up again would only lead to more loss, more grief, more pain. But standing here with Victoria in his cramped kitchen, with his sick daughter asleep down the hall, he couldn't remember why he'd been so afraid. I'm falling for you too. The words came out rough. Real. Victoria's breath caught. Really? Really? You're brilliant and kind and terrible at drawing. You make Lily laugh. You make me feel like maybe I don't have to carry everything alone. He took her hands. And that terrifies me too. She kissed him first. Soft. Careful. The kiss of two people who'd been lonely too long and were terrified of breaking something precious. When they pulled apart, both were trembling. What do we do now? Victoria whispered. I don't know, but I'd like to find out. She rested her forehead against his. Me too. They stood like that for a long moment, two broken people deciding to heal together. Then Lily called from the bedroom. "Daddy, I'm hungry again." Victoria laughed against his shoulder. "Duty calls. Always. I love that about you. The constant interruptions. The constant putting her first." Victoria stepped back but kept hold of his hand. "That's what made me fall for you. You never pretended she wasn't the most important thing." "She is the most important thing." "I know. That's why I'm here." They made more soup together. Lily ate it sitting up in bed while Victoria told her about a disastrous business meeting where someone had spilled coffee on a very important client. Lily laughed until she coughed, which made her clutch her stomach, which made her laugh more. Later, after Lily fell asleep again, Daniel walked Victoria to the door. "Same time Saturday." "Actually," Victoria hesitated. "I was thinking we could do something different." "Different how?" "My family has a cabin in Vermont. Small, quiet, good for recuperating. I thought maybe if Lily's feeling better we could spend a weekend there. All three of us. A weekend away. Family territory. Moving faster than Daniel had planned. But then again, nothing about this had gone according to plan. "Let me ask Lily." "Of course." Victoria kissed him goodbye, gentle and quick. "Text me either way." "I will." Daniel watched her drive away, then went back inside to check on his daughter one more time. Lily was awake watching him from her pillow. "Are you and Victoria in love?" The directness of children. "I think we might be heading that direction." "Good." Lily yawned. "I like her. She stayed the whole time." "She did." "Mommy would like her too." Daniel's throat tightened. "You think so?" "Yeah, Mommy would want us to be happy, and Victoria makes us happy." Lily's eyes drifted closed. "Tell her yes about Vermont. I want to see snow." Daniel stood there for a long time watching his daughter sleep, thinking about the women in his life. The one he'd lost. The one he was finding. The small one in the bed who somehow understood everything better than he did. Then he pulled out his phone and texted Victoria. "She says yes, and she wants to see snow." The response came in seconds. "I'll make sure there's plenty. See you Saturday. I love you." Daniel stared at the words. 3 words he hadn't heard from anyone except Lily in 6 years. 3 words that should have sent him running. Instead he typed back, "I love you too." And meant it. 3 months had passed since Christmas Eve. 3 months of Saturdays that turned into Wednesdays, that turned into most evenings. 3 months of Lily drawing pictures with 3 figures instead of 2. 3 months of Daniel learning to trust again. Then Victoria brought up her parents. They were sitting on Daniel's couch after Lily had gone to bed, her head resting on his shoulder, some documentary about the ocean playing on the television. Neither of them was watching. "My parents want to meet you." Daniel's body went rigid. He'd known this was coming. Victoria mentioned her parents occasionally, always with a careful neutrality that suggested complicated history. Old Boston money. Expectations carved in granite. A relationship that had never recovered from Victoria choosing her company over their plans for her life. When, Friday night, dinner at their house. "That's in 3 days." "I know, I've been putting it off." Victoria sat up, turning to face him. "They've been asking about you for weeks. About the man I've been spending all my time with. I can't avoid it forever." Daniel rubbed his face. "What have you told them?" "That I'm seeing someone. That it's serious." Victoria hesitated. "I haven't mentioned Lily yet." "Why not?" "Because I wanted them to meet you first, to see how good this is before they start forming opinions." "You mean before they judge me?" Victoria didn't deny it. "My parents have certain expectations. They'll need time to adjust." "Adjust to what?" "That I'm not from their world." "Daniel, I'm a financial analyst who rents a house in Somerville. My net worth is probably what your mother spends on handbags in a year." The bitterness surprised him. He'd thought he'd made peace with the economic gap between them. Apparently not. What exactly are they adjusting to? Victoria took his hands. They're adjusting to me being happy with someone they didn't choose. That's what this is really about. It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with me. And Lily. I know. That's why I need you to trust me. Her grip tightened. I'll be right there. I won't let them hurt you. It was a promise she couldn't keep. They both knew it. But Daniel looked at this woman who'd become essential to his life, who loved his daughter like her own, who'd shown up day after day, proving she was serious. He couldn't ask her to choose between him and her family. Okay, Friday. Victoria's face flooded with relief. Thank you. It'll be fine. You'll see. Daniel wished he shared her optimism. The next 3 days passed too quickly. Daniel bought a new suit. Not designer, but quality. Charcoal gray conservative cut, the kind of thing that said, I'm respectable without screaming, I'm trying too hard. He got Lily a new dress from a department store, navy blue with white flowers, more expensive than he usually spent, but appropriate for dining with people who probably owned the department store. Wednesday night, he sat Lily down for a talk. Remember Victoria? How we've been spending time with her? Lily nodded crayon, pausing over her latest drawing. She wants us to meet her mom and dad. We're going to have dinner at their house Friday. Is it a big house? Very big. Lily considered this. Bigger than Grandma's. Much bigger. Wow. Lily returned to her drawing. Are they nice? Daniel chose his words carefully. They're formal, very proper. There will be fancy food and lots of forks, and we'll need to use our best manners. I have good manners. I know you do, sweetheart. I just want you to be prepared. It might feel different than what we're used to. Lily looked up, reading something in his expression. Are you scared, Daddy? Kids always knew. A little. Why? Because Victoria's parents are important to her. I want them to like us. Why wouldn't they like us? Daniel had no good answer. How did you explain class prejudice to an 8-year-old? How did you tell your daughter that some people would judge her before she opened her mouth based solely on where she came from? Sometimes people have ideas about what families should look like, he said finally. Our family is a little different. It's just you and me. And Victoria. And Victoria. But some people might not understand that. Lily set down her crayon with the gravity of a judge issuing a verdict. Then they're dumb, she announced. Our family is the best family. Daniel pulled her into a hug, breathing in the scent of her shampoo, the solidness of her small body against his. You're right, they would be dumb. I know. Lily wiggled free. Can I bring my sketchbook in case I get bored? Probably not a good idea. What if there are no other kids? There won't be. Lily sighed dramatically. Adults are so boring. Friday arrived with the weight of an execution date. Victoria met them in the driveway of her parents' house. Mansion, really. Federal-style 3 stories, the kind of property that had been in families for generations. Daniel's Honda looked obscene parked next to the Mercedes and BMW already there. Victoria had transformed. Gone were the jeans and sweaters he'd grown used to. In their place, a silk dress, heels, hair pulled back severely. Her armor was on protection against whatever was coming. You look beautiful, Daniel said. You look terrified. Both things can be true. Victoria crouched down to Lily's level. You look amazing, sweet girl. Are you ready? Lily smoothed her new dress. I practiced my manners with Daddy. Please and thank you, and napkin in my lap. Perfect. You'll do great. Victoria took Lily's hand, then Daniel's. The 3 of them faced the massive front door like soldiers preparing for battle. Remember, Victoria said quietly, I love you both, no matter what happens in there. She knocked. The door opened to reveal a woman in her early 60s, blonde hair in a perfect bob designer dress, pearls that probably cost more than Daniel's car. She examined them the way someone might examine insects under glass. Victoria, you're on time for once. Hello, Mother. This is Daniel Park. And this is Lily. Margaret Sterling's gaze swept over Daniel, lingered on Lily, returned to Victoria. I see. 2 words loaded with a library's worth of judgment. Come in. The interior was everything Daniel had feared. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, artwork that belonged in museums. Lily's shoes squeaked against the stone, the sound echoing like an announcement of their inadequacy. Richard Sterling emerged from a study. Tall, silver-haired, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Daniel earned in 2 months. His handshake was firm, assessing the grip of a man who measured worth in milliseconds. Daniel Park, Richard Sterling. Thank you for having us. Richard's eyes flicked to Lily. And this is the child. Not the little girl. Not Lily. The child. Like she was an object rather than a person. This is my daughter. Daniel kept his voice even. Lily, say hello to Mr. Sterling. Lily extended her hand the way Daniel had taught her. Nice to meet you, sir. Richard's eyebrow rose fractionally. Manners, that's something. They moved to a sitting room that could have fit Daniel's entire house. Margaret poured drinks without asking preferences, handed Daniel a scotch he didn't want, gave Victoria wine, pointedly offered Lily nothing. Water for Lily, Victoria said, not asking, stating. Margaret's lips thinned. Of course, I'll have someone bring it. Someone. Of course there was staff. Of course there were invisible people whose job was to tend to the Sterlings' every need. Lily sat on a chair that dwarfed her feet, dangling above the floor, hands folded in her lap exactly as Daniel had shown her. She looked like she was trying to make herself as small as possible. So, Richard settled into a leather armchair. You're the man who's captured my daughter's attention. I suppose so. Victoria tells me you're in finance. Financial analysis, forensic accounting specifically. I identify irregularities in corporate financial statements. Morrison and Associates. Richard's tone dripped dismissal. Regional firm, isn't it? Yes. We handle mid-market clients primarily. And your education? Boston University, full scholarship, graduated magna cum laude. State school. Not a question, a categorization, a dismissal. Richard? Victoria's voice held warning. I'm simply trying to understand our guest's background. Richard's smile didn't reach his eyes. You can learn a lot about a person by where they come from. Margaret leaned forward. Victoria mentioned you're raising the child alone. Lily, Daniel said. Her name is Lily. Yes, Lily. Margaret's gaze flickered to where Lily sat frozen. And her mother passed away 6 years ago. Leukemia. How tragic. No emotion, none at all. So you've been a single parent for 6 years. That's right. That must be difficult, working full-time, raising a child without support. We manage. Do you? Richard's question cut like a blade. A demanding job, limited resources, no mother figure in the picture. That seems like a challenging environment for a young girl. Daniel's hands clenched on his knees. Beside him, Victoria had gone rigid. Lily is happy, healthy, and thriving, Daniel said, fighting to keep his voice level. She's at the top of her class. She plays piano. She draws constantly. She's the most well-adjusted kid I know. Children need stability. Margaret's voice was smooth as poison. Structure. A proper family unit. Surely you can see how your situation falls short. Falls short of what? Of what's best for the child. Margaret glanced at Lily again, the way one might look at a stain on expensive fabric. She must need so much. Things you simply cannot provide. I provide everything she needs. Do you really? Richard set down his scotch. Let's be honest, Mr. Park. Victoria is worth somewhere in the range of $50 million. Her company is valued at $65 million. You work at a regional firm making what, $80,000 a year. Father. Victoria stood. That's enough. It's a fair question. If Daniel is going to be part of this family, we need to understand his financial position. Richard turned back to Daniel. You understand our concern about intentions. The accusation hung in the air like smoke. You think I'm after her money. I think it's convenient that a man in your position has suddenly attracted the attention of one of Boston's most eligible women. Richard. Victoria's voice shook with anger. Daniel didn't pursue me. I pursued him. I approached him. I proposed to him. Even more convenient. Daniel stood. His whole body vibrated with fury he was barely controlling. I don't want Victoria's money. I never asked for anything. I didn't even know who she was when we met. So you claim. It's the truth. Margaret laughed soft and cruel. The truth is that you're a widower with a dependent child and a modest income, and my daughter happens to be a millionaire. Forgive us for being skeptical of such a fortuitous connection. Daniel looked at Lily. She'd shrunk into herself, tears building in her eyes, face pale. She'd been listening to every word, understanding more than they realized. We're leaving. Daniel, please. Victoria grabbed his arm. Let me talk to them. There's nothing to talk about. He kept his eyes on his daughter. They made their position very clear. They're just protective. They're cruel. Daniel turned to face Victoria, seeing the anguish in her eyes. And you brought us here knowing this would happen. You knew how they'd react, and you brought Lily anyway. I thought they would be different. I thought if they saw you, saw how good this is. They saw. Daniel's voice was hollow. And we're not good enough. We'll never be good enough for their world. Daniel, Lily, get your coat. Lily slid off the chair, tears streaming silently down her cheeks. She walked past Margaret and Richard without looking at them, spine straight, chin trembling, but lifted. 8 years old, and already learning to walk away with dignity. Daniel followed her to the foyer, where their coats hung. His hands shook as he helped her into her jacket. Daniel, wait. Victoria was behind him, voice breaking. Let me fix this. Let me talk to them. You can't fix this, Victoria. You can't fix people who see my daughter as a burden, who see me as a gold digger. He zipped Lily's coat, smoothed her hair. I should have known better. I should have known this was too good to be true. That's not fair. None of this is fair. He turned to face her. I spent 6 years protecting Lily from people who thought she wasn't enough, from women who saw her as an obstacle, from a world that told her she was the reason I couldn't find happiness. His voice cracked. I thought you were different. I thought this was different. But you come from this. He gestured at the marble and crystal and wealth, and will never belong here. Victoria's face crumpled. I'm not them. You know I'm not them. I know, but they're still your family, and they just spent an hour telling my daughter she's a problem to be solved. Daniel took Lily's hand. I can't do this, Victoria. I can't put her through that. So you're leaving. You're just giving up. I'm protecting my daughter. You're protecting yourself. The words hit like a slap. But Daniel was already moving, pulling Lily toward the door away from this house that stank of money and judgment. Daniel! Victoria's voice followed them. Don't do this, please. He stopped at the door, turned back one last time. Victoria stood in the marble foyer, arms wrapped around herself, mascara running down her cheeks. Behind her, Richard and Margaret watched from the sitting room doorway, faces impassive. Goodbye, Victoria. He walked out into the winter night, Lily's hand clutched in his, leaving behind everything he'd let himself hope for. In the car, Lily sobbed. They hate me, Daddy. They said I was bad. They said I make everything wrong. Daniel pulled to the side of the road. He couldn't drive like this, couldn't see through his own tears, couldn't focus on anything except his daughter falling apart in the back seat. He climbed over the console, squeezed into the back, pulled her into his arms. They don't hate you. They don't even know you. But they said you can't give me good things. They said I make you not good enough. They're wrong. Daniel held her tighter, rocking back and forth. So wrong, Lily. You are the best thing in my life. You make everything right. Everything. Then why did they say those things? Because they're scared and small and they measure people by money instead of heart. Daniel's voice shook. But none of that is true. You are perfect. You are enough. You are more than enough. Lily cried against his chest until she couldn't cry anymore. Then she sat back, wiping her face with her sleeve. What about Victoria? The question hit like a knife between ribs. I don't know, sweetheart. She loves us. She told me she loves us. I know. Her parents are mean, but she isn't mean. No, she isn't. So why are we leaving her? Daniel had no answer. He'd acted on instinct, on the need to protect Lily from people who hurt her, on 6 years of walls built against a world that kept telling him he wasn't enough. But Lily's question cut through all of that. Why was he leaving Victoria for something her parents did? Let's go home, he said finally. We'll figure it out tomorrow. But as he drove through the dark streets, he knew he'd already figured it out. He'd done what he always did when things got hard. He'd run. He'd protected himself under the guise of protecting Lily, and he'd left Victoria standing alone in her parents' house, choosing between the man she loved and the family she was born into. His phone buzzed. Victoria's name on the screen. He declined the call. It buzzed again, and again, and again. He turned it off. That night, after Lily finally fell asleep, with tear-streaked cheeks and her elephant clutched to her chest, Daniel sat alone in his dark living room. The Christmas tree they'd never taken down blinked in the corner. Photos of Sarah watched from the mantel. Everything the same as it had been for 6 years. He'd thought he was ready to let someone in. He'd thought he'd finally found someone worth the risk. But at the first sign of trouble, he'd run. Sarah's voice echoed in his memory. The promise she'd extracted in the hospital, barely strong enough to speak. Promise me you'll be happy. Promise me you won't let me dying make you afraid to live. He'd broken that promise over and over again, and tonight, he'd broken it completely. His phone sat dark on the coffee table. Victoria's messages waiting inside. Her voice probably in voicemails he was too afraid to hear. Daniel put his head in his hands and let himself fall apart. Because he knew, even as he pushed her away, that Victoria wasn't the enemy. Her parents were. And he'd just punished the wrong person for their sins. 2 weeks passed in silence. Daniel went through the motions. Work, Lily's school, meals that tasted like cardboard, nights staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of that disastrous dinner, every word he'd said to Victoria as he walked out. He'd stopped checking his phone for her messages after the 3rd day. They'd slowed, then stopped entirely. The last one, sent at 2 a.m. 5 days after he left, said simply, "I understand. I'm sorry. Take care of yourselves." He'd read it 47 times. Lily didn't ask about Victoria anymore. She'd tried the first few days cautious questions about when they'd see her again, whether she was still coming to her piano recital. Daniel had dodged and deflected until Lily stopped asking. Now she just drew pictures with 2 figures instead of 3. It was Rachel who finally broke through. His sister showed up unannounced on a Saturday morning, 2 weeks and 3 days after the dinner. She walked past him into the kitchen, started making coffee, and didn't say a word until she'd poured 2 cups and sat down at his table. "You look like hell." "Good morning to you too." "It's afternoon. It's 1:30. Rachel pushed a cup toward him. "Drink, then talk." "I don't want to talk." "I don't care what you want. Mom called. She's worried. Lily's teacher called. She's worried. I'm worried." Rachel's lawyer voice, the one that had destroyed witnesses on cross-examination for 20 years. "So you're going to talk and I'm going to listen, and then I'm going to tell you what an idiot you're being. You haven't even heard what happened." "I know exactly what happened. Victoria's parents were horrible. You left. You haven't spoken to her since." Rachel sipped her coffee. "Did I miss anything?" "How did you?" "Victoria called me." Daniel's cup froze halfway to his mouth. What? 3 days ago, she tracked down my number through some mutual contact, called to ask if you and Lily were okay. Rachel's expression softened slightly. She was crying, Daniel. This woman who runs a $50 million company called a stranger to ask about the man she loves because he won't return her calls. Her parents. Her parents are monsters. That's established. Rachel leaned forward. But she's not her parents, and you're punishing her for their sins. I'm protecting Lily. Bullshit. The word cracked through the kitchen like a gunshot. You're protecting yourself. Same thing you've been doing for 6 years. Rachel's eyes held no mercy. You built walls after Sarah died. I get it. I understood it. But now you're using Lily as an excuse to keep those walls up, and that's not protecting her. That's teaching her to run away when things get hard. You didn't see what they said to her. How they looked at her. No, I didn't. But I know Victoria told them off after you left. I know she walked out of her parents' house that night and hasn't spoken to them since. I know she chose you and Lily over her own family. Daniel's chest tightened. She did. Yes. Because that's what you do when you love someone. You choose them even when it's hard. Rachel stood, refilled her coffee. Daniel, when Sarah was dying, what did she make you promise? He closed his eyes. Don't. What did she make you promise? You know what she made me promise. Say it, out loud. The memory surfaced like a drowning man gasping for air. Sarah in the hospital bed, barely strong enough to squeeze his hand, making him swear on everything he held sacred. She made me promise to be happy. His voice cracked. To not let her death make me afraid to live. And what are you doing right now? Silence. You found someone who loves you. Rachel continued, relentless. Who loves Lily. Who walked away from her own family because they hurt you, and you're throwing that away because her parents are assholes. It's not that simple. Yes, it is. Rachel came back to the table. Honoring Sarah doesn't mean staying miserable for the rest of your life. It means being brave enough to choose happiness, the way she chose to fight for every single day she had left with you and Lily. Daniel stared at his coffee, cold now, untouched. What if I already ruined it? Then you fix it. You show up. You apologize. You fight for what matters. Rachel put her hand over his. That's what Sarah would tell you if she was here. You know I'm right. He did know. He'd known since the moment he walked out of the Sterling's house. Where's Lily? Rachel asked. In her room. Drawing. Go talk to her. Then call Victoria. Rachel stood, gathered her purse. I'll let myself out. But Daniel, don't wait too long. People can only hold on for so long before they let go. After his sister left, Daniel sat in the quiet kitchen for a long time. Then he went to find his daughter. Lily was on her bed, sketchbook open, colored pencils scattered around her. She didn't look up when Daniel knocked on the open door. Can I come in? She shrugged. Not yes, not no. Somewhere in between. Daniel sat on the edge of her bed. The drawing she was working on showed a house with a yellow door. 2 figures inside. One tall with dark hair, one small with a yellow coat. No third figure. I need to talk to you about something important. Lily's pencil paused. About Victoria. Yeah, about Victoria. Are we ever going to see her again? The question came out small. Smaller than Lily usually was. Like she'd already prepared herself for the answer to be no. I made a mistake, Daniel said. At that dinner. When those people said mean things, I got scared and angry. I wanted to protect you, but I ran away instead of fighting. Lily looked up. You ran away. Yeah, sweetheart, I did. Daniel took a breath. I left Victoria there even though it wasn't her fault. I blamed her for what her parents did. That was wrong. Are you going to say sorry? I want to, but I need to know how you feel first. Lily set down her pencil with the seriousness of a judge rendering a verdict. Her parents are mean, she said. Really mean. They made me feel bad about myself. I know. I'm so sorry you had to hear those things. But Victoria isn't mean. Lily's eyes, Sarah's eyes, met his directly. She stayed when I was sick. She taught me watercolors. She burned cookies with me and laughed instead of getting mad. She did all those things. And she loves us. She told me she loves us. Yeah, she did. So, Lily crossed her arms. We should fight for her, like you said families do. Daniel's throat closed. His 8-year-old understood this better than he did. What if her parents are always like that? What if every holiday, every family event they say horrible things about us? Then we show them they're wrong. Lily's chin lifted. That's what you taught me. When people say mean things, you prove them wrong by being your best self. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You just don't listen because I'm a kid. Despite everything, Daniel laughed. A real laugh, the first one in 2 weeks. You're right. I don't listen enough. He pulled her into a hug. Thank you, Lily, for being braver than me. You're welcome. She hugged back tight and fierce. Now call Victoria. I want my other mom back. Daniel held on a moment longer. His daughter had just called Victoria her other mom. Not stepmom, not Victoria. Mom. I love you, he whispered. I love you too. Now go fix it. Daniel went. He called Victoria from the living room, hands shaking, heart pounding. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. He prepared himself for voicemail, for rejection, for the silence he deserved. She answered on the 4th ring. Daniel. Her voice was rough, like she hadn't slept, like she'd been crying. Can we meet? I need to talk to you. Silence on the line. Long enough that Daniel thought she might hang up. Where? Your office. Wherever you want. I'll come to you. The park. Lexington Common. Where we met. A pause. 1 hour. I'll be there. She hung up without saying goodbye. Daniel didn't blame her. He drove to the park in half the time, arriving 20 minutes early. Sat on the bench where they'd watched Lily feed ducks 3 months ago. Rehearsed what he wanted to say. Threw out every rehearsed line because none of them were right. Victoria arrived exactly on time. She looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes. Hair pulled back without care. Wearing jeans and a sweater that looked slept in. The CEO armor completely gone. She sat on the far end of the bench, as far from him as possible, while still being in the same space. You look awful, Daniel said. Thanks. You look worse. Probably true. Silence stretched between them. Not comfortable. Charged with everything unsaid. I'm sorry. Daniel spoke first. For leaving. For not answering your calls. For blaming you for what your parents did. Victoria didn't respond. Just stared at the empty playground where Lily had pushed her on swings. I was scared, he continued. I've been scared for 6 years, since Sarah died. I built walls to protect myself, told myself I was protecting Lily, but really I was just afraid of losing someone again. So you left before you could be left. Yeah, the truth cut deep. That's exactly what I did. Victoria finally turned to look at him. Her eyes were red-rimmed, exhausted, but still sharp, still seeing everything. I told them off, she said. After you left, I told my father he was a snob and my mother was cruel. I told them they'd just destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me because they couldn't see past their own prejudice. Rachel told me. Your sister. Victoria's expression flickered. She sounds like a good person. She is. She also told me I was an idiot. She's right. I know. Victoria turned back to the playground. I haven't spoken to my parents since that night. My father called twice. My mother sent a text asking if I'd come to my senses. I didn't respond. You shouldn't have to choose between us and them. But I do. That's the reality. Victoria's voice was flat. They made it clear you and Lily would never be acceptable to them. And I made it clear that if you're not acceptable, neither am I. The weight of what she'd done settled over Daniel. Victoria had walked away from her family, her wealth, her connections, her entire world. For him, for Lily. And he'd responded by ghosting her for 2 weeks. I don't deserve you, he said. Probably not. I'm sorry. You said that already. I'll keep saying it until you believe me. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer. I've been alone for 5 years. Since Marcus left me because I couldn't have children. I convinced myself I was fine with that. Built my company, made my money, proved I didn't need anyone. She looked at him. Then I met you. And Lily. And I realized I'd been lying to myself. I wasn't fine. I was broken and pretending not to be. Victoria. Let me finish. She held up a hand. These past 3 months were the happiest I've ever been. Not because of money or success or any of the things I thought I wanted, because I had a family. You and Lily made me feel like I belonged somewhere. Tears slipped down her cheeks. She didn't wipe them away. When you walked out, it broke me. Not because of my parents, because I thought I'd finally found what I'd been looking for, and I lost it anyway. Daniel moved closer on the bench, reached for her hand. She let him take it. You didn't lose us. I'm right here. Are you really? Her eyes searched his face. Because I can't do this halfway, Daniel. I can't keep falling for you if you're going to run every time something gets hard. I won't run again. How do I know that? Because Lily told me to fight for you. She called you her other mom. Daniel's voice shook. My 8-year-old has more courage than I do. She's been teaching me what family means this whole time, and I was too scared to learn. Victoria's breath caught. She called me her mom. Her other mom. Like having two is the most natural thing in the world. Daniel. Victoria's composure cracked. More tears fell. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be a mother. I've never done it before. Neither have I. Not really. I've been figuring it out for 8 years. What if I mess up? You will. I do all the time. Daniel squeezed her hand. But you show up. You keep trying. That's all parenting is. Showing up and trying again. Victoria laughed, a wet, broken sound. That's terrifying. Yeah. But it's also the best thing I've ever done. They sat in silence for a moment, hands clasped, breathing together. I need you to promise me something, Victoria said. Anything. If things get hard again, if my parents attack, or the world judges, or everything falls apart, you don't run. You talk to me. You let me fight beside you, instead of leaving me behind. I promise. Mean it. I do. I swear on everything I have. Daniel turned to face her fully. I love you, Victoria. I should have said it weeks ago. I should have said it that night instead of walking out. You love me. Yes, and not just because of what you do for Lily, because of who you are. Brilliant and kind and terrible at skating. Patient when you don't have to be. Present in ways I forgot people could be. Victoria pulled her hand free. For a horrible moment, Daniel thought he'd lost her. Then she threw her arms around him, holding on like he was the only solid thing in a drowning world. I love you too, she whispered against his shoulder. I've loved you since you showed me that picture of Lily and talked about her like she was the center of the universe. Daniel held her back, felt her shake with sobs that were finally releasing weeks of pain, let his own tears fall into her hair. Come home, he said, to us, where you belong. Promise you won't leave again. I promise, never again. They stayed on that bench until the sun started to set, talking about everything that had happened, the dinner, the aftermath, the silence that had hurt them both. Then Victoria's phone rang. She looked at the screen. Her expression changed. My mother. Don't answer. I have to. If I don't, she'll keep calling. Victoria took a breath, answered. What do you want, Mother? Daniel could hear Margaret's voice tinny through the phone, but couldn't make out words. Victoria's face went through several emotions. Shock. Disbelief. Something that might have been hope. Fine, Saturday, neutral ground. She glanced at Daniel. And I'm bringing them. That's non-negotiable. More tinny words. Then don't bother coming. Victoria's voice turned to steel. You want to see me? You meet my family, all of them, or we're done forever. She hung up without waiting for a response. What was that? Daniel asked. My parents want to try again. Victoria's expression was guarded. They claim they want to apologize. Properly. Do you believe them? No. But I also can't ignore them forever. She looked at him. Would you be willing to give them one more chance? Every instinct screamed no. These were the people who'd made Lily cry, who'd called her a burden, who'd looked at Daniel like he was dirt on their expensive floors. But Victoria had chosen him over them, had walked away from everything she knew because they'd hurt him and Lily. He owed her at least this much. One chance, Daniel said. But the moment they say anything cruel, we leave. Agreed. And Lily has to decide if she wants to go. Of course. They drove to Daniel's house together. Victoria's Tesla following his Honda through streets that had become familiar over the past 3 months. Lily was waiting at the door when they arrived. She'd changed into her yellow coat, the one Victoria had complimented on their first meeting. You came back. She launched herself at Victoria with enough force to nearly knock her over. Victoria caught her held tight, buried her face in Lily's hair. I came back. I'm not going anywhere. Promise. I promise. Lily pulled back, examining Victoria's face with 8-year-old intensity. Your eyes are red. Were you crying? A little. Because Daddy was stupid. Victoria laughed. Something like that. He apologized, right? Many times. Good. Lily grabbed both their hands, dragged them toward the house. Come on, I made you a drawing. It has 3 people in it again. They went inside together. A family reunited. But Daniel knew this was just the beginning. Victoria's parents were waiting. Their judgment, their expectations, their world that would never fully accept him or Lily. Saturday would be the real test. And this time Daniel swore to himself he wouldn't run. He'd stand and fight. For Victoria, for Lily, for the family they were building. No matter what. Saturday arrived with the weight of everything riding on it. Daniel woke before dawn, unable to sleep. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, running through every possible scenario. The Sterlings apologizing sincerely. The Sterlings using the meeting to attack again. Victoria caught in the middle. Lily hurt worse than before. He'd promised not to run. But promises were easy in the moment. Keeping them when everything fell apart was something else entirely. At 7, Lily appeared in his doorway. Yellow pajamas with stars on them. Hair tangled from sleep. Eyes already worried. Is today the day? Yeah, sweetheart. Today's the day. Are you scared? A little. Lily climbed onto his bed, curled against his side like she used to when she was smaller. Me too, she admitted. Those people were really mean last time. They were. That's why I need to ask you something important. Daniel sat up, pulling her with him. You don't have to go today. If you want to stay home with Grandma, that's completely okay. Nobody will be upset. Lily considered this with her usual seriousness. Will Victoria be there? Yes. Will you be there? Yes. Then I'm going. Lily's chin lifted. We're a family. We stick together. Daniel's throat tightened. When did you get so brave? I learned it from you. I'm not brave, Lily. I ran away last time. But you came back. She patted his arm like he was the child who needed comforting. That's the brave part, coming back when it's hard. Daniel pulled her into a hug, breathing in the little girl smell of her shampoo and sleep and innocence. This small person he'd made with Sarah, who somehow understood things that took adults decades to learn. I love you more than anything in the world. I know. She wiggled free. Can I wear my yellow coat again? You can wear whatever you want. Good. I'm going to look amazing. She bounced off to get ready. Daniel stayed on the bed a moment longer, gathering his courage. His phone buzzed. Victoria. Still on for today. Still on. You. Terrified, but ready. See you at noon. Daniel showered, dressed in the suit from last time, helped Lily into her yellow coat and navy dress. They drove to the meeting place, a cafe in Cambridge that Victoria had chosen. Neutral territory, public space, escape routes if needed. Victoria was already there when they arrived. She stood outside pacing, checking her phone every few seconds. When she saw them, her face flooded with relief. You came. I promised. Daniel took her hand. How are you doing? I threw up twice this morning. Victoria managed a weak smile. Very CEO of me. Throwing up is a sign of courage, Lily announced. My teacher says butterflies in your stomach mean you care about something. Your teacher is very wise. I know, I tell her that all the time. They walked into the cafe together. Victoria had reserved a corner table away from other customers, private enough for difficult conversations. Richard and Margaret Sterling were already seated. Daniel's whole body went rigid. The memories of that dinner crashed through him. Every word they'd said, every look they'd given Lily, every moment of humiliation and rejection. But he'd promised. He'd promised Victoria. He'd promised Lily. He'd promised himself. He kept walking. Margaret stood as they approached. She looked different. Smaller somehow. The armor of wealth and judgment replaced by something Daniel couldn't identify. Nervousness, maybe. Or fear. Thank you for coming. Margaret's voice wavered. All of you. Nobody responded. They sat. Daniel positioned himself between Lily and the Sterlings, a physical barrier against whatever was coming. Richard cleared his throat. I suppose we should begin. Yes. Victoria's voice was ice. You should. Margaret glanced at her husband, then at Victoria, then at Lily. Her eyes lingered on Lily longest. I owe you all an apology. The words came out stilted, rehearsed. What I said at dinner was cruel and inexcusable. I made judgments based on things that don't matter. I hurt you. Especially you, Lily. Lily said nothing, just watched Margaret with eyes that held no forgiveness. I know an apology doesn't fix what I said. I know words are cheap. Margaret's hands twisted in her lap. But I need you to understand something. Something I've never told anyone except Richard. She took a shaky breath. I didn't grow up in Back Bay. I grew up in Roxbury. My father worked 2 jobs to keep us housed. My mother cleaned offices at night. We had nothing but each other and the hope that things might get better. Daniel stared. This was not what he'd expected. I met Richard at Boston College. Scholarship like you. Margaret nodded at Daniel. His family hated me, called me a gold digger, trailer trash trying to climb above my station. Mother. Victoria's voice was shocked. You never told me any of this. Because I was ashamed. I spent 30 years trying to erase where I came from, trying to become someone the Sterlings would accept. Margaret's composure cracked. Tears slipped down her cheeks. And I succeeded. I became exactly like the people who hurt me. The cafe seemed to go silent around them. When I looked at you and Lily that night, I saw my younger self. I saw everything I'd run from, and instead of compassion, I felt fear. Margaret's voice broke. Fear that Victoria was making the same mistake I did. marrying below her station, giving up everything for someone who couldn't provide what she deserved. I don't want your money, Daniel said quietly. I never did. I know that now. I knew it then, if I'm being honest. Margaret wiped her eyes. But admitting that meant admitting I'd been wrong about everything. That the values I'd adopted were poison. That I'd become the monster I once feared. Richard spoke for the first time. I was no better. Worse, probably. I grew up with money. I never learned to see past it. Then why now? Victoria's voice was hard. Why apologize now after 2 weeks of silence? Because I lost you. Margaret looked at her daughter with devastation written across her face. Because when you walked out that night and didn't come back, I realized I'd sacrificed the only thing that actually matters. Which is what? Family. Real family. Margaret turned to Lily. I am so sorry, sweetheart. I said terrible things about you, about your father. None of them were true. Lily hadn't moved throughout the conversation, hadn't reacted. Now she spoke, her voice small but steady. You made me feel like I was bad, like I made Daddy not good enough. I know. That was wrong. You're not bad. You're wonderful. Margaret's voice shook. Your father is one of the bravest men I've ever met, raising you alone, working hard, never giving up. That takes more strength than anything I've ever done. Then why did you say those things? The question hung in the air. Simple, devastating, the logic of a child cutting through adult excuses. Because I was scared and small, Margaret admitted. Because seeing your father reminded me of who I used to be, and I hated that part of myself. Lily considered this for a long moment. Then she looked at Daniel. Daddy says everybody makes mistakes. The important thing is fixing them. He's right. Margaret leaned forward. I want to fix this. I want to be part of your lives if you'll let me. Not the way I was before. Better. Different. How do we know you won't be mean again? You don't. The honesty was startling. But I can promise to try. Every day. And if I slip, if I say something hurtful, you can tell me. Call me out. Hold me accountable. Lily looked at Victoria. Do you believe her? Victoria's expression was unreadable. I don't know yet. But I want to. Do you believe her, Daddy? Daniel had been silent through most of this, processing, trying to reconcile the woman who'd destroyed Lily's confidence with the woman now crying in a Cambridge cafe. I believe people can change, he said finally, but change takes time, and trust has to be earned. Margaret nodded. I understand. I'm not asking for immediate forgiveness. I'm asking for a chance to prove I can be better. Richard spoke up. We both are. Whatever it takes. However long it takes. The table fell silent. Everyone waiting for someone to make the first move. Lily did. She stood, walked around the table to where Margaret sat. For a horrible moment, Daniel thought she might say something, cutting something final. Instead, she extended her hand. I'm Lily. I like piano and drawing and yellow things. I have good manners, and I'm very wise for my age. Margaret stared at the small hand, then at the small face offering something like a second chance. Hello, Lily. Margaret shook her hand carefully like it was made of glass. I'm Margaret. I like gardening and reading, and I'm very bad at saying sorry. But I'm trying to learn. Learning is good. My teacher says it's never too late to learn new things. Your teacher sounds wonderful. She is. Maybe you could meet her sometime. The tension in Daniel's chest loosened fractionally. His daughter, his brave, impossible daughter, was building a bridge he hadn't known how to construct. I'd like that very much, Margaret said. They ordered coffee. Tea for Lily, with extra sugar that Daniel usually wouldn't allow, but today felt appropriate. The conversation shifted, still careful, still testing boundaries, but no longer hostile. Richard asked about Daniel's work. Genuine questions this time, not attacks, disguised as curiosity. Daniel explained forensic accounting in terms that made Richard nod thoughtfully. That's important work. Catching people who steal from their own companies. Someone has to do it. I know a few CEOs who could use your services. A pause. If you're interested. Paid consultations. Your standard rate. Daniel recognized the olive branch for what it was. I might be interested. Margaret asked about Lily's piano. What pieces she was learning. How long she'd been playing. Whether she'd considered competitions. I'd just like to play, Lily said. Competitions sound stressful. They can be, but they can also be rewarding. Margaret hesitated. I played piano when I was young, before I got too busy pretending to be someone I wasn't. Maybe you could play again. Daddy says it's never too late to start over. Margaret's eyes glistened. Maybe I could. 2 hours passed without anyone noticing. The cafe filled and emptied around them. Eventually, Victoria looked at her phone and announced they should probably let the staff have their table back. They stood to leave. Awkward hugs that weren't quite natural yet, but weren't forced either. Margaret crouched down to Lily's level. Would you like to come visit us sometime? I have a garden. It's mostly dead because it's winter, but in spring it's full of flowers, all different colors. Lily looked at Daniel. He nodded. Okay, but only if Daddy and Victoria can come too. Of course, all of you, always. They parted on the sidewalk, the Sterlings walking toward their Mercedes, Daniel, Victoria, and Lily walking toward their mismatched vehicles. That went better than I expected, Victoria said quietly. Yeah, it did. Do you think it's real, the change? I don't know, but I think we should find out. Lily grabbed both their hands, swinging between them as they walked. I'm hungry. Can we get ice cream? It's 40 degrees outside. Ice cream doesn't care about temperature, Daddy. Ice cream is always appropriate. Victoria laughed. She makes a compelling argument. They got ice cream, sat on a bench in the weak winter sunlight, eating cones that made their fingers cold and their hearts warm. 3 people who'd been strangers a few months ago. 3 people who'd chosen each other despite everything. A family. 6 months later, they stood in the same garden Margaret had mentioned. Not dead anymore. Blooming with spring flowers in every color Lily had demanded. The ceremony was small. 40 guests. Close friends, family colleagues who'd become friends. Rachel as Daniel's best person. Catherine, Victoria's stepmother, as her matron of honor. The Sterlings attended, sat in the front row. Margaret cried the entire time. Richard shook Daniel's hand before the ceremony and said quietly, "Thank you for giving my daughter the family she always wanted." Lily stood beside Victoria in a yellow dress she'd picked herself, holding flowers, bouncing with barely contained excitement. The vows were traditional until Victoria turned to Lily. "Lily, I promise to be the best mom I can be, to support your dreams, encourage your art, be there whenever you need me. You taught me what family really means. I'm grateful every day that you let me be part of yours." Lily hugged her fiercely yellow dress, crinkling. "I promise to be a good daughter and to keep teaching you to draw." She pulled back, grinning. "You're still not very good." Laughter rippled through the small crowd. "I'm improving," Victoria protested. "Your stick figures have gotten slightly less accident-looking." "That's progress." The officiant pronounced them married. Lily cheered before anyone could kiss. At the reception, Daniel found himself standing alone for a moment, watching Victoria dance with Lily. Both of them laughing, spinning, completely absorbed in each other. Sarah's voice echoed in his memory. The promise she'd extracted in the hospital. "Promise me you'll be happy. Promise me you won't let me dying make you afraid to live." He'd finally kept that promise. "You look happy." Daniel turned. Margaret stood beside him, glass of champagne in hand. "I am happy." Victoria hasn't stopped smiling in months. Lily either. Margaret watched the dance floor. I was wrong about you, about everything. I know. Thank you for giving me another chance, for letting me be part of this. Thank you for earning it. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, two people who'd started as enemies, slowly learning to be family. Sarah would have liked her, Margaret said quietly. Victoria, I mean. I never met your first wife, but from what Lily tells me, she was remarkable. Daniel's throat tightened. She was. Victoria isn't trying to replace her. You know that, right? I do. She's not a replacement. She's an addition. That's exactly right. Margaret touched his arm briefly. Lily taught me that. She's wiser than all of us combined. She gets it from her mothers. Both of them. Margaret smiled, tears building again. I should mingle. But Daniel, thank you. For my daughter. For my granddaughter. For the family I almost destroyed before I realized what I had. She walked away. Daniel returned his attention to the dance floor. Victoria caught his eye. Smiled. The smile that had first appeared in a restaurant on Christmas Eve when she'd asked an impossible question to a stranger. Would you consider being my husband? He'd thought she was insane. Probably had been insane to say yes. But here they were. The music changed. A slow song. Victoria led Lily to Daniel, placed his daughter's hand in his. Your turn, Dad. Daniel danced with Lily, her feet on his the way they'd done since she was 3. She looked up at him with Sarah's eyes and Victoria's smile. This is the best day ever. Better than ice cream. Better than everything. Lily's arms tightened around him. I have a mom now, a real mom, and grandparents who don't hate me anymore. And you're happy, Daddy, really happy. I am, sweetheart, really happy. Mommy would be happy too. My first mommy. She's watching from heaven, I think. Daniel's eyes burned. I think so too. She sent Victoria to us. That's what I believe. She knew we needed someone, so she sent the perfect person. 8-year-old theology. Simple, pure, true in the ways that mattered. Maybe she did. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, Lily. More than anything in the world. I know, she grinned. But now you love Victoria too. That's okay. Hearts can grow bigger. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You just finally started paying attention. The song ended. Victoria appeared, took Daniel's hand, pulled him onto the dance floor for their first dance as husband and wife. What were you two talking about? She asked. Hearts growing bigger. Lily's wisdom. Always. They swayed together. Victoria's head on his shoulder. Daniel's arms around her waist. Around them, family and friends watched with the soft smiles of people witnessing something right. I love you, Victoria whispered. I love you too. Thank you for taking the risk, for saying yes to a crazy woman in a restaurant. Thank you for asking. I almost didn't. I almost convinced myself it was insane and walked away. I'm glad you didn't. Me too. Victoria pulled back, met his eyes. This is everything I wanted, everything I didn't know how to ask for. Same. They kissed while their daughter cheered from the sidelines and their family applauded. 1 year later, December, Christmas Eve, the anniversary of everything. Daniel stood at the window of their new house. Not the Seaport penthouse. Not the Somerville rental. Somewhere in between. A colonial in Brookline with a yard for Lily to play in and a room that Victoria had converted into an art studio. Snow fell softly outside. The kind of snow that stuck to trees and made everything look like a postcard. Behind him, Victoria and Lily decorated the tree, arguing over ornament placement the way they did every year now. Lily insisting on a specific order. Victoria deliberately putting things in the wrong spots to provoke reactions. You're doing it wrong on purpose. I have no idea what you mean. Mom? Yes, daughter. Stop being difficult. Never. Daniel smiled. Mom. Lily had started using it 6 months ago. Casual at first. Testing how it felt. Now it came naturally automatically, like it had always been true. Daddy, tell Mom to stop being annoying. You're on your own, kid. Traitor. Victoria caught Daniel's eye across the room. Smiled. The smile that still made his heart skip after all these months. Come help, she said. Your daughter is being tyrannical about ornament placement. It's not tyranny, it's quality control. She's 8. Where did she learn words like quality control? From you. Daniel joined them at the tree. This is your influence. Probably. Victoria handed him an ornament. This one goes somewhere Lily hasn't already claimed. Everywhere is claimed. Then choose wisely. Daniel placed the ornament. Lily immediately adjusted it 3 inches to the left. There. Now it's perfect. They finished the tree together, strung the lights, placed the star on top, Daniel lifting Lily while Victoria steadied the ladder. It's beautiful, Lily declared. Best tree ever. You say that every year. Because it's true every year. They ordered takeout for dinner. Thai food, Victoria's favorite. Ate it on the floor in front of the tree because Lily insisted eating at the table on Christmas Eve was against the rules. Whose rules? Daniel asked. The Christmas rules. Everyone knows them. I don't know them. That's because you're old, Daddy. Old people forget the important things. I'm 45. Exactly. Ancient. Victoria laughed until she choked on a spring roll. After dinner, Lily went to bed with minimal resistance. Too excited about Christmas morning to fight. Daniel and Victoria tucked her in together, kissed her forehead from both sides. Good night, sweetheart. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Mom. Lily yawned. Best Christmas Eve ever. You say that every year. Because it's true every year. They retreated to the living room, sat on the couch facing the tree. Victoria curled against Daniel's side, his arm around her shoulders. 1 year, she said quietly. 1 year. Do you remember what you were thinking when I first asked you? That you were completely insane? Fair. That it was the worst idea I'd ever heard. Also fair. That there was no way it could possibly work. And now, Daniel turned to look at her. This woman who'd walked into his life with an impossible proposal. Who'd loved his daughter like her own. Who'd stood up to her parents, rebuilt relationships, created a family from broken pieces. Now I think it was the best decision I ever made. Victoria kissed him. Soft, slow. The kiss of two people who had time, who had each other, who had everything they needed. I love you, she whispered. I love you too. Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for asking. They sat together in the glow of Christmas lights, listening to the silence of their sleeping daughter, their warm house, their improbable life. Outside, snow continued to fall. Inside, a family rested. Not perfect. Not without challenges. Victoria's parents still had moments of thoughtlessness. Daniel still sometimes retreated behind walls when things got hard. Lily still asked about Sarah, still grieved a mother she barely remembered. But they faced it together, always together. That was what family meant. Not the absence of problems, the presence of people who stayed. Daniel looked at Victoria. Victoria looked back. Next year, she said, we should do something special for our anniversary. What did you have in mind? I don't know yet, but I have 12 months to plan. You're a CEO. You plan everything. Exactly. Victoria smiled. And I've got very good instincts. Is that what you call proposing to strangers in restaurants? I call it identifying opportunity. And me. Best investment I ever made. Daniel pulled her closer, felt her heartbeat against his chest, watched the Christmas lights reflect in her eyes. 1 year ago, he'd been sitting alone in a restaurant, watching another woman walk away because he had a daughter, convinced he'd never find what he was looking for. certain that love and family were things that happened to other people. Then, Victoria had asked an impossible question, and everything had changed. Some people waited their whole lives for a second chance. Some people never got one. Daniel had gotten his on a Christmas Eve from a stranger who saw something worth fighting for. He was never going to stop being grateful. Merry Christmas, Victoria. Merry Christmas, Daniel. They fell asleep on the couch, tangled together, the tree glowing above them. In the morning, Lily would wake them by jumping on their sleeping forms. They'd open presents and make pancakes and call the grandparents and do all the ordinary things that families did. But for now, in the quiet of Christmas Eve, two people who'd found each other against all odds simply held on. Because that was what love was, not a fairy tale, not perfect, not without struggle, just two people choosing each other over and over again, no matter what came. Daniel had spent 6 years afraid to try again, afraid of loss, afraid of failure, afraid of everything. Victoria had given him the courage to hope. Lily had given him the reason to fight. Together they'd built something that couldn't be measured in money or status or any of the things the world said mattered. They'd built a family, and that was worth everything.